Hello, Angry Spork here, still taking issue with Batgirl Redemption Road. In the first installment, Cassandra had started her own secret investigation to find her father David and Deathstroke, the two men that had manipulated her into being the killer she never wanted to be. Her intention? To kill them. She clashed with Nightwing and was warned by Batman not to betray his trust. Continuing her investigation, she was led to an abandoned school where she found several dead bodies and the not-so-dead body that made them dead. And so, we continue.
Issue 2's cover asks, "Who is Mark?" Well, with a black and red costume, that's biggest distinction is a bunch of lines. I'd wager Jim Lee's inspiration for all the New 52 redesigns. Mark realizes who she's dealing with, but isn't going to let that stop her. Batgirl makes her own realization, that Mark and the dead girls were all former pupils of Kane, and wonders if Mark killed the other 5 because the Phano drug had been perfected. The Mystery Woman attacks, slashing at the back of Batgirl's head, revealing some of her hair and leaving some blood behind. A jab to the face and some mouth blood convinces Mark that B-Girl was the one taught better than the rest, and as she tries to tell her she's not with Kane, they take the fight out a window, reminded of their first lesson. Trust is a ghost. You know, like the chapter title. Mark exposits that she was older than the others when Kane took her, but he never got in her head. She took his lessons, but waited for the chance to free herself, took on the name she currently uses, and in a flashback panel is next to a door wielding a paperclip, likely a nod to how she escaped. Batgirl tells her they have the same mission, but Mark disagrees. She's spent her free from Kane time ruining the Great Grey Dragon, as shown in another flashback of her attempt to explode him. She's haunted him as he haunts her, and now, closer than she's ever been, she won't let another of his toys thwart her from stopping his deadliest plan yet. I am not a toy. Cassie knows there's only one surefire way to prove she's no longer with Kane. Using her cape, she restrains Mark's arm while cracking it at the same time, and tells her she could kill her 11 different ways, and that turns out to be sufficient evidence that she's on the up and up.
Why is it that when I attack people and break their bones to prove that I'm not lying, it doesn't work, they just call the police?
Well, nothing seems to be broken since Mark moves her arms well enough. She does think it's possible that Cassie set up a trap to figure out what she knows, but since they have the same teacher, letting the young assassin go is still a risk. Mark needs to know the target Kane and Slade are going to take out to establish their new business, and how far along they are, so she demands to use the Batcave's resources. Denied! Batgirl will find answers on her own, but she doesn't work for her uneasy ally. They're working together. Mark decides to use her own resources, and then they can meet again at the school the next night. Batgirl tells Mark no killing, but the young woman pretty much brushes her off. Cassie leaves, pondering the blood on the neck of her costume, which she doesn't think is hers, and we leave the scene on a very Deathstroke-esque shadow cast from within the school. Change angles and it'll turn out to be a squirrel. Later in the Batcave, our heroine is inserting her blood sample into the computer for analysis, while she downloads at-large threat files of her father and Slade to a thumb drive. Oracle chimes in, knowing what Cass is up to, even if Batman doesn't. Barb knows how difficult it'd be to stop Batgirl if she really wanted to kill her 2 targets, but begs her not to. It won't make her feel better.
Maybe not, but I bet a good old-fashioned savage beating would. Allow me to demonstrate. I just need a volunteer from the audience. Preferably Martin Shkreli.
Though her successor is silent, Barbara understands about needing to deal with things on one's own, and trusts her to make the right call. Cassie asks a favor, and Oracle agrees to analyze the blood work, but she'll only send the raw data. She even goes as far as erasing Batgirl's activity on the computer in a way bats won't notice, but that's as far as she'll go as long as the boss remains in the dark. Well, he is Batman, after all. Being in the dark is kind of his deal anyway, right? They'd all help her if it meant nobody got killed, but Cassandra is choosing to go at this alone. Later, Cass is at a coffee shop called How You Been, and between the green lettering and the curve of that steam question mark, I swear this is a front for the Riddler. She narrates that Oracle understands, even if she doesn't agree, perhaps having wondered if she'd ever kill the Joker. Cass wonders how she can't kill the men that turned her into a killer, as she looks over some incomplete files for both her father and Slade. One connection links them, a Klaus Josef Hannemeyer, and that's when she's surprised by someone calling her from off-panel. A lot of that going around lately. She shuts her laptop and knocks over her coffee, which is caught by Sal, a classmate from her ESL classes the previous year. He asks where she went when she suddenly stopped attending, and she only says that she got sick.
Which is true. She came down with a severe case of idiocy.
Sal works up the nerve to ask for her number, but Cassie doesn't have a phone. No problem, he gives her his and asks her to call before he leaves for Jakarta in a fortnight. Cue sitcom audience, woo! That night, Batgirl returns to the abandoned school, musing how Sal wanted her to call him, and that she likes his eyes. She hasn't felt this way since Zero.
Zero, for those who don't know, was a young man Cassie met while she was living in Bloodhaven, but he died, along with the rest of the city, when Chemo was dropped. Before that, she and Superboy were briefly an item, but he was pretty intimidated by her. But I'm sure this relationship will work out.
Mark had interrogated a mercenary pilot who flew Kane to Kongala in 1975 to assassinate their president. He'd heard Slade may have been there too, but wasn't sure. She believed this uncertainty because she asked many times, she says, as she washes blood off her hands. Batgirl confirmed Slade was in Kongala at the same time, as the name she found belonged to a chemist who was also there, known for selling stimulants to mercenaries, and he currently resides in a Gotham prison nursing home. Mark's ready to go question the old man, but Batgirl stops her, asking if she killed the pilot, to which our uneasy ally says she doesn't want that answer. Batgirl tells her not to kill the old man as he's paying for his crimes, but Mark thinks differently as he hasn't paid her. No one but Kane and Slade need die, according to the crime fighter, but Mark says they have different definitions for need. And somehow I doubt a trip to dictionary.com would settle this particular argument. We jump to the Narrows Island Federal Penitentiary, where an orderly is almost killed by Mark before Batgirl stops her. One disabled camera and a picked lock later, they're face to back with Hannemeyer, who starts rambling about a woman named Ilsa and the beauty of the moonlight. When asked about Kane and Slade, he seems confused, and Mark thinks he's pretending. Believing he's simply old, Batgirl coaxes him further about Kongala. The aged chemist says that after a bomb killed that land's president, Slade called him for transport out, and mentioned that he encountered another killer claiming credit for the president's death, another customer of Hannemeyer's, David Kane. They battled each other over the bounty, with a mutual respect resulting from the fight we don't quite get to see until the sound of police sirens made them call it off, each man measuring his career against the other.
I know it's not that important to the story, but who got the bounty?
Hannemeyer mentions having spoken with Slade, holding up a piece of paper as he mentions the killer asked him to work on stabilizing a formula for him. When asked if he was successful, he begins talking about Ilsa again, so the two young women leave, believing his mind has checked out. I can't tell if they took the paper with them, if it was significant, or if the old dude kept it. Could have been clearer. A couple panels of empty glaring at the sky, Hannemeyer's disposition changes, and he presses a call button summoning the orderly that Mark almost killed. The chemist asks to speak to his daughter and becomes increasingly insistent and loud to do so immediately. The orderly acquiesces so he doesn't wake the entire ward, and when given a phone, he tells an old friend that they're coming for you. Hey man, you need to be your daughter's parent, not her friend. Returning to the old school, Mark says they need to assume the compound was stabilized, and Kane and Slade now have their army. Batgirl notices the broken glass from their earlier fight is cleared from the ground, and before either can react, they're struck by electricity. Someone off-panel calls it clumsy, and a splash page shows a familiar orange boot and the business end of a sword. The newcomer asks, "What would Daddy say?"
Probably go for the jugular. Well, tune in next time to see if that boot really is who we think it is.